Let's talk about this character, Louie Lips. I'd like to go through Gangland with a name like Louie Lips. You spend your whole life explaining how he had huge lips. His name was Leo Morciri. He was a quick-tempered, foul disposition gangster. He worked for Jack Dragna for a while out in California. He said to be his top executioner. I don't know. I haven't been able to find any evidence of that. Marcia, I'm going to tell you the next 3 points because it's in his FBI file. Somebody told them, I'm telling you. The FBI didn't write this as fact. They simply wrote down what they were told. So, Marcia allegedly was the guy who wired and then blew up the SS Normandy in the New York City docks during World War II. It was actually a plot to get Luciano out of prison. He had been sent upstate to Sing Sing, I think, or Dannemora for pimping. I don't know. I mean, I've applied for that file through naval intelligence. I don't know how many. It's been years, decades, and I can't get a straight answer. They said they've released what they're going to release, and when I said that's fine, but do you have more? They acknowledge they have more. They just haven't released it. So, I mean, why not? Everybody connected to that is dead. I don't see what the problem is. Well, I do, but I don't want to see them. Anyway, the other thing it says is that he was the getaway driver for the sniper who shot Bugsy Siegal. There is a tape on here I made a while back that I'm convinced that it was a GI, came from a lot of money, lived in Beverly Hills. He snapped overseas. He came back here, snapped again with a lot of problems in his home. His wife had a baby from outside the marriage, all sorts of things. And he snapped. And there's good evidence to show he walked across. There's a mall in Beverly Hills, a big green park, and he walked across that from where he lived down a few blocks. Ended up in back of Bugsy's house, fired a shot, killed him. He was a great shot, and that was a great shot, by the way. Took his eye out. It was a fantastic shot. He was sitting down. So I don't believe that. Anyway, so I don't believe this guy was a getaway driver. The most ridiculous story I've heard on this file is that the word was that Licavoli had sent Louie Lips and his brother Joe Misery. How'd you like that? Would be a great gang name, wouldn't it? Joe Misery. He sent them down to Dallas in 1963 to help with the joint mob CIA plan to kill the President Kennedy. I don't believe that. Oswald killed Kennedy. I think if you look at that case, maybe you have to see him right. Anyway, Joe Misery was named as a member of the Mafia by the Kefauver Committee, which was really something. At the time, there were between 6,000 and 8,000 members of the Mafia, and they didn't name many. I mean, they called them in, but they never said, you're a mob guy. But they did in his case. During the Prohibition, Licavoli and Joe Misery, they were co-leaders in the River Gang. It was a preeminent bootlegging syndicate in Detroit. Anyway, Morceri he was a hothead like his brother. One time there was a police inspector who got on the wrong side. He said, I'm going to kill him, but they had to stop him from doing that. But he did 3 years on the Prohibition rap, but otherwise, he had a clean record. It's very odd for a man who spent almost his entire life in organized crime. He survived the 1943 assault with a knife. He was stabbed 3 times during an argument with a bad guy. Then he didn't survive. 1968, he was a victim of he went into a warehouse he owned. I'm pretty sure it was in Cleveland. It was a furniture warehouse. He owned furniture stuff. And he went in there at night. The place was being robbed by a 20-something-year-old guy. At this point, Joe Misery's almost 70. They get into a fight. The bad guy, the burglar, hit him with a 3-foot, 1-inch pipe, broke his head open and killed him. So back to Louie Lips. He settles in Akron, Ohio. He gets into business with his cousin, the Cavali. They open up bootlegging, gambling, and they make a lot of money. And Moceri tried to get Licavoli to invest in, Sam Giancana was saying, look, we need to, never mind Las Vegas, let's spread out, like the legs of a table. So it's more balanced. We'll go to the Caribbean and we'll open up casinos in the Bahamas. They did eventually. I think Lansky did eventually, but nobody listened to Louie Lips, and so it didn't happen for him. But still, they were rich, and they had big real estate holdings in the area. They owned legitimate businesses. But despite that fortune, he was known in the underworld as just a cheap guy. He was a skinflint. He eventually became the underboss of the Cavali, but he got into a tiff with this guy, John Nardi, over gambling. a lot of other stuff. It was a big argument, and he was killed just 2 weeks after the last argument he had, argument in public. This is a much more complicated situation. Nardi was breaking off from the syndicate. I think he just wanted to control. In August 1973, Moceri told this FBI informant that he was sure Nardi was going to make a play for control of the Cleveland mob, and to do that, he would have him killed first. I think that happened. So he vanished for the city's Feast of the Assumption Festival in Little Italy on August 22, 1976. They found his Mercedes. It was just soaked in blood. The body's never been found. Morci's death made him technically the first casualty of Cleveland's really bloody, drawn-out Irish-Italian War in the late 1970s, where everybody seemed to be blowing up everybody else. John Nardi had, as I said, aligned himself with this Irish upstart, Danny Green. The story is that Green's top enforcer, this guy, Keith Ritson, R-I-T-S-O-N, killed Morceri and then dumped his body in the quarries in Cleveland outside of the Southwest. Sorry. I'm amazed I went as long as I did without choking. Ritson, he had been a Golden Glove boxer. He was a thug. He was murdered several years later. What happened in 1976, this mobster, the hit guy, Ray Ferrito, pulled up in front of Ritson's home in a car exactly like the one Danny Green drove, his boss, Ritson's boss. And he beat the horn. Ritson thought, oh, Danny Green's come to visit. He walked outside, and as soon as he got on the sidewalk, Ferrito blew him away with a shotgun. Then they caught up with John Nardi. He wasn't going to get away with that. May 17, 1977, in Cleveland. They placed a bomb in the car next to Nardi's car. He was in the parking lot of, guess where, the Teamsters Joint Council. Where else? So when Nardi got in the car, they detonated it by remote control. It blew off his legs. According to an FBI informant, when he was killed, Morceri had about $100,000 on the street that he was lending out and so forth. He was a loan shark. Rick Perello, who was an expert in Cleveland organized crime. Rick Perello has a site called AmericanMafia.com. I used to write there. It's a great site. I think it might be the original organized crime site on the internet. It's called Rick Perello's AmericanMafia.com. So all kinds of good stories up there you can read and photos and everything. He was Rick's grandfather, I think, was the Perello brothers, the Mafia guys who were killed in an attempt to take over Cleveland. But Rick is an honest guy. He was a drummer at one point with the Beach Boys. A really talented guy. He put out a movie about the Irish wars out there. Forgot what the name of the film was. He's had several bestsellers. He was a policeman too, by the way. Rick was a policeman. But according to him, when they dragged Nardi, what was left of him out of the car that had been blown up, just as like a final hurrah, he said, nah, didn't hurt at all.